everyone, it's Erin from the Provincial Farmhouse. Welcome to my channel. Today I am doing a decorate with me for Christmas. I'm going to be decorating part of my dining room, my Christmas tree. I've also got a couple of Christmas DIYs to share with you as well. I hope that you enjoy today's video. I always begin decorating for Christmas with my Christmas tree. This is the Snowy Alaskan from Target Australia. I got it several years ago and I still absolutely love it. Just like with most trees, I'm starting with the tree stand and I'm going to add this little tree skirt or tree box rather that I got from Kmart Australia a couple of years ago. The corners attach using Velcro, which I think is a very clever idea. I always like to have this one. I think it's a lovely farmhouse sort of touch for the Christmas tree. I'm then going to add the base in, and of course I am plugging the lights in as I go, hoping that they still work, and thankfully they do. And I'm also going to be fluffing the tree. One of my favorite decorators on YouTube is Brittany Blaine, and I love hearing her tips. She always says do one to the right, one to the left, one up, one down when you are fluffing your Christmas tree branches, and it definitely made a difference with my tree this year. I definitely felt that it looked a lot fuller. And I didn't have to add any other branches in there to achieve that look. So I'm just adding all of those pieces together and attaching the little lights for each section. I love the twinkling effect of Christmas lights. My pre-lit ones do not have that function, so I'm going to go in and add extra lights to my tree. I tend to start from the bottom when I'm adding these lights, and I'm trying to put them in the sort of further back section into the tree branches, and I'm trying to pick areas where I'm noticing that there's maybe some gaps with the lights as well. Obviously you don't have to do this, but I do love the added effect of the twinkling setting on these as opposed to just having the steady lights. Once I have my lights sorted, I'm going to be adding this silver leaf style garland that I got from Kmart Australia many years ago. I'm going to be adding that in. Unfortunately, I only have 2 pieces of this, so I do have to be quite strategic about how I place it in the tree. So I'm just going to have that wrapping around, just sectioned as evenly as I can. I then move on to my larger ornaments. This is a beautiful large mercury style glass ball that I got from David Jones in Australia. I'm going to be adding them in the tree. I am going to actually just use the round hanger attachment to put these in my tree though, as I don't really want to see that black ribbon. I don't want that to be a predominant feature in the tree, and I have 6 of these. For these next ornaments, I'm actually going to be swapping out the hanging attachment for these silver hanging attachment pieces. I am going to be using that instead. I just think it looks a lot nicer, and I've got a little bit more control, and they're a little bit more secured as well. So I think I've got another 6 of these. I'm going to space them out on the tree. I love them because they have the pearl detail in them. Next, I'm going to be adding 3 of these beautiful gem snowflakes. I picked these up from David Jones Australia as well, and I am also replacing the hanging attachment on this one too, and just spacing the 3 that I have around the tree. I'm going to start adding in these silver glass ornaments that I got from David Jones. I'm not changing the hanging attachment on these, and I'm going to be putting them in amongst the other ornaments. I've got quite a few of these ones. And then I'm going to start adding these more sort of geometric shape drop ornaments. These are also silver and glass, but I am going to change the attachments on these ones so that they're a little bit more secure as well. And I am going to be hanging them throughout the tree. I have 2 sets of these, so 4 of each of these kind of ornaments. I'm then going to start attaching these quite similar ornaments to the ones I just hung, except they have white glitter on the inside of the glass. And I only have 4 of these ornaments in these 2 different styles, and I'm going to be adding them to the tree. I love draping beads on my tree. I am using these. They're from Kmart Australia. I'm going to be hanging them on the branches, then draping them. So you've got that sort of soft curve there, and I'm going to be adding that around the Christmas tree. I ended up using 2 packs of these, and these were quite cheap. I think I only paid $3 for them, but they really look lovely in amongst my other ornaments. One of my other favorite things is icicles. I have a few different styles. These are actually, I think, I got them from TKMAXX by Rachel Zoe, and I've got 4 of this kind. I'm going to hang those throughout the tree, and then I do have a couple of other different styles that are a little bit more plain glass and of varying sizes. So I definitely go for a very silver glass, sort of frosted looking tree with my style. And I build upon that. So this is another one of the icicles, and I got most of these from TKMAXX. Next, I wanted to just share the little DIY that I did last year. In case you didn't see my last year's video, I picked up this star at the thrift store for just a couple of dollars. I'm going to add some Extreme Guard in Satin gloss clear coat over the top of that. This is going to be my glue. Because I want to add some other glitter over the top. I loved how this looked, so I don't want to cover up the glitter. I just want to have something there for my German glass glitter to stick to, and I want to maintain that shine. So I'm adding a generous amount of this Extreme Guard in Satin, and then I'm going to be using pure silver German glass glitter. I'm going to sprinkle that beautiful silver glitter over the top of the wet clear coat, and this is just going to elevate the look of this star. The glitter that was on there is obviously, it's not the same quality as the German glass glitter, so this is just going to really take it up to the next level. And I love this star. I thought I would just do a quick refresh to show you how I gave this piece an update, because you may have Christmas decor in your collection that needs updating, and this is a really easy way to do that. And now it's a bit more my style. It's more silver as opposed to the champagne gold that it was originally, and it's definitely held up. It looked great last year, and I'm happy to be adding it to my tree again this year. I've still got more to do on my tree, but I am going to add my star and move on to working on my next DIY project for my sideboard. I don't want to go any further on the tree until I have my sideboard decorated so I can tie the 2 together. So I picked up this massive, beautiful frame for $15, but I wanted to add this stunning artwork here. This is a public domain artwork, so it doesn't have copyright attached to it anymore. I will link it below. I'm going to remove the nails so that I can take out the artwork. I am not going to be putting the art that I'm going to be using over the top of the art that was already there, but I am going to be using this quick grip spray adhesive on the back of the canvas that I got printed using that beautiful deer artwork. I will link where I got it printed below, and I'm going to spray that adhesive there, and I'm also spraying it to the back, so I'm not covering up the artwork that was there before. I'm just going to be adding it to the backing that came with it. So I'm applying it on both surfaces, and then when it's touch dry, I am adding the canvas on top. So they're going to form a strong bond, and I left it to dry for about 24 hours before I added it back to the frame, and I just made sure there was no air bubbles and that there was really good contact. Now, I didn't want to add more holes to my wall to be able to hang this, but I did want to prop it up a little bit. So I'm just using some old books that I have, and I am stacking them evenly at each end, and I'm going to be resting my artwork on top of those books rather than making more holes in my wall and worrying about it not staying up, because this is quite heavy. And I am then going to be adding this garland here. I got this from Amazon, I think it was last year. I got quite a few of them, and I'm going to be adding them underneath the artwork, and I'm going to be draping 3 of these, so you're not going to be able to see the books. And I really love these. It's not my snowy look like my tree that I prefer to go with, but I am going to be adding another garland shortly that will help tie the 2 areas together. I got the next garland that I'm going to add. I think I got this from Bed Bath & Table, and I also wound through a little berry garland that I had in my stash. I love to incorporate a little bit of red where I can, so I'm going to drape that over the top. It definitely ties in together with the garland that we already have down. And it does have little battery operated lights, which I just love that it had that option. I then took out this really heavy, I was struggling here, cast iron planter that I got at Christmas last year. And I'm actually using some snowy trees that I took off their bases last year as well. And I'm going to be putting those inside my cast iron planter to create a festive little centerpiece there. So I'm pushing those in. And once I'm happy with the height, I am going to add in these pine cones. They sort of look like they've got snow on them. And I'm going to be adding 2 of those, pressing them in either side of the cast iron planter and just trying to work it in amongst the branches and just play with the wire that the pine cones are attached to get them to the level that I want. And I think this centerpiece, having the snowy greenery and the snowy pine cones and having this slightly flocked garland behind this, definitely helps to tie the 2 sections of my sideboard and Christmas tree together. Once I was happy with how the pine cones looked, I grabbed a couple of little berry stems, and these were originally from a different garland, and I'm going to be adding those to our cast iron planter, just experimenting with the position until I am happy with how they look. These berries are going to tie in with the berries in the garland behind them. Now, if this color scheme isn't to your taste, remember you could definitely adapt it. You could use white berries perhaps instead, different types of garlands. And I'm going to add another 2 little berry stems there towards the back of the arrangement. I wanted a wreath to go above the sideboard, so I picked up a pretty plain one from TKMAXX, but I wanted it to be a little bit more frosted. So I'm going to be using this snow spray that I just picked up from a cheap store. I've got the wreath laying on some paper, and I'm going to go in and add a little bit of that snow. I'm going in pretty light. I don't want it too frosted. I still want the greenery to be visible, but I do want it to have a more flocked look. I also added a red velvet ribbon. This is a double-sided ribbon. I tied a bow and I've just attached it to the wreath using some florist wire. I think it definitely looks good together there. I'm also going to be using some of the same beads that I used in my tree. I am going to be draping them, starting with the corners. This was a little bit awkward. I had to get up on a ladder to do this. I'm going to push that behind the artwork so it drapes down. And then I'm going to pull that over to the other side, repeating that same process. I didn't want to add, again, any more hooks or anything to my wall or to my artwork, so I was just really working with gravity here. So I've got the beads behind the frame is leaning up against the wall and holding them in place. And then I'm going to go into the center, grab the center, arrange the beads how I want them, and then I'm going to push them up behind the frame again in the center. This was a little bit fiddly and tricky, but I got there in the end, and I really love the look of these beads. It's bringing in some of the silver from the tree to this area, and I think adding little touches definitely helps tie the two sections together. Also, I know the tails of my bow are uneven, but I actually prefer the imperfect look. Next, I am going to be adding some brass style candlesticks to my sideboard. I picked these up from Amazon a while ago. I'll try and link them below. And I also have these little battery operated LED candles. I love the look of the faux wax dripping from them. I don't love the fact that I can still see the batteries on the inside a little bit, but from afar I don't think it's super obvious. That might be a DIY that I have to tackle in the future to paint them. I'm also adding a slightly smaller candlestick, and then I'm going to repeat the same process on the right hand side so that it looks balanced. I want to add a little bit more white and a little bit more silver to this area, so I'm going to be using these little pine cone ornaments that I got from Kmart Australia a couple of years ago. I'm just going to be adding 2 on each side, working them into the greenery so that they look like they are part of that arrangement. I'm also doing that on the left hand side as well. Now that I have this section organized, I wanted to add a few more finishing touches to the tree, again to tie the two areas together. So I took out these little frosted berries. I am going to just be twisting them around the end of the tree branch there. I've added a few of them throughout the tree. This is just going to bring a little bit of that red without being too overwhelming. I'm going to add a few of those throughout the tree, and I'm also going to be adding some of the pine cones like we added to that centerpiece. I have actually pulled that pick apart so that I've got smaller clusters of the pine cones there. Next, I'm going to be adding some beautiful red velvet bows. I tied these with double-sided red velvet ribbon. I'm going to be pushing some ornament hanging attachments through the back so that I can better attach them to the tree. Now, unfortunately, I could only make 3 of these particular size bows, but I did have the exact same ribbon in a slightly thinner size that I will also be making bows out of. So I ended up adding 6 of these velvet bows to the tree, and I think it's a great way to add ribbon without draping it throughout the whole thing and without it being overwhelming. I've never added bows to my Christmas tree before, but I really love how this looks, and I love that double-sided velvet ribbon. It really does make all the difference. I'll try and find some links for this ribbon and add them below. So I finished adding the larger bows, and this is the thinner ribbon, but thankfully it's the same color, so I think it all still tied well together. And I just sort of alternated which size bow I had near each other, and I think actually the variety ended up working really well. At this point, I did want to bring in a little bit more warmth to the tree, a little bit of that brassy gold color. So I took out these ornaments here. I actually stocked them in my shop last year, and I'm going to be adding 6 of these in the tree. I think that while it is that sort of gold tone, I don't think it's overwhelming. I think it's that beautiful glass, mercury glass look that I really love, and they do go, I think, with the other ornaments I have. And finally, I'm also going to add these little brass bells. Again, it is a softer brassy look that I think ties in and doesn't contrast negatively with all of the silver that I have in the tree. So I had 6 of these, so I just spaced them out throughout the tree. The final touch is to add this beautiful decoration to the top of my clock. This is another piece that wasn't flocked that I actually used spray snow on to help tie in with the rest of my decor. So remember that you can always update what you buy in store, and I think that it ties in perfectly with the other decor I have. And here's a look at our finished Christmas corner. I really enjoyed adding some new things to my Christmas collection this year. I am obsessed with that artwork, and it was definitely budget friendly, and I'm loving the new additions to my Christmas tree. Let me know what you think of my Christmas decorating today. If you enjoyed today's video, I would really appreciate it if you would hit that like button, comment, and share it out. If you haven't already, I would love it if you would hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so that you don't miss out on any of our videos. Thanks for watching.